50 skiffs. 400 raiders. One cruise ship blind in a storm. You clicked for the biggest pirate assault in decades, this is it. The Red Scythe Syndicate used a blackout corridor to cut comms in close to 1.8 nautical miles with RPG-7s, AK-103s, and PKMs. And they were funded, $28.6 million in 48 hours, routed through 7 countries. What breaks first, hull, morale, or the response time? Stay with me as we dissect the breach plan, the comms collapse, and the first moves that decide whether passengers live or die. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video. You're on a cruise ship in open water. The storm eats your radios. Unknown wakes begin to multiply on radar. What breaks first, your comms, your perimeter, or the plan you didn't think you'd need tonight? The blackout corridor isn't a myth. It's a squall line stacked with atmospheric ducting that bends and scatters energy. VHF loses reach. Satellite uplink turns spotty. Call and acknowledge turns into dead air and repeats. For a few minutes, maybe more, you live in a gap where your messages limp and replies arrive late. In that gap, small boats move. On the bridge, watchstanders stare at returns that won't sit still. Sea state throws white noise across the scope, and small craft ride the clutter like shadows under rain. AIS stays silent. The screens along the passageway show gray sheets of spray and bloom with lightning that burns out detail. You know you aren't alone, but you can't size the threat. You can't even count it. Then the pattern appears. 50 skiffs, but never in a single block. Dispersed cells. 35 to 38 knots across staggered bearings, planned to overload any one firing arc. Some pull wide to fix your gaze. Others knife in on quarter angles to close the lane to 1.8 miles. They rotate lead boats to keep engines fresh and cruise steady. It looks chaotic until you notice the rhythm. It's a net, not a mob. Each skiff carries a simple breach kit. Rope hooks. Grapples. Collapsible ladders. One man shoulders an RPG-7 to shock the superstructure. 2 set a PKM for suppressive fire and chew up rail positions. The rest stack in pairs with cutters, lines, and spare ladders. They aren't there to duel. They're there to reach your steel, fast. Timing makes it work. Thunderheads peak just as the surge begins. Your call to the Coast Guard rides a jammed highway of rain scatter and partial handshakes. Nearby traffic hears pieces of it, not the whole. Response forces start down the wrong thread, then circle back. A minute lost here, another there. The skiffs don't waste it. Here's the hard truth that sailors learn early. Big hulls have blind spots at the waterline. In heavy rain, radar paints a wall of sea clutter where small hulls hide and then pop only when they're already close. Layer spray, wind, and strobe lightning, and you get a sensor picture that lies just enough to slow your hands. The ship answers with interior alerts. Doors that never get tested in daylight get tested now. Lower deck access points feel pressure. Crew move along tight hallways and lock down ladders. Out on the weather deck, the first shots sync with lightning bursts so the muzzle flash vanishes in the wash. A PKM rakes the rail, then cuts. An RPG smacks a railing segment to shake the watch. Hooks find purchase on the third toss. It feels like a lucky run. It isn't. Environmental masking sets the stage, but it's disciplined spacing that keeps the borders alive. Each cell stays just far enough from its neighbor to dilute your defensive fires while still close enough to support the next ladder. They don't clump. They don't pause. Gaps open and close like gills, and every breath pulls them nearer. By the time help vectors, ladders ride the skin of the ship and boots work the rungs. The corridor did its job. The training did the rest. Your best weapon now is time, and they already stole most of it. If storms can blind sensors, what financed the tactics that exploited that window? Follow the money and the doctrine next. 400 rifles don't by themselves. 26 launchers don't either. A swarm with synchronized ladders comes from ledgers, not luck. Red Scythe behaves like a network, not a dockside crew. You see logistics cells that stage fuel, parts, and rations. Engineers tweak hulls, reinforce transoms, and mount weapon cradles that hold steady in chop. Assault teams train like light infantry, drilling stack order and fields of fire. The result is speed with control. That takes money, planning, and a back end that moves faster than any one boat. The gear pulled from a wet bag tells its own story. 2 laptops with clean builds and single-use credentials. A sat phone that never calls the same number twice. The traffic points offshore, then offshore again, bouncing through shells and trustees. And one name keeps surfacing at the edges like a watermark on cheap paper: Meridian Tides Foundation. It's a civic-sounding wrapper that fits the gray zone, respectable on the face, hollow once you knock. Follow the wires and the shape gets sharper. 28.6 million in 48 hours. 7 jurisdictions. Transfers tiered in thin slices, timed to bank windows, and laundered through donor-advised pools and maritime charities. That cadence looks more like political action financing than a smuggler's payout. It buys boats, weapons, fuel bladders, radios, night optics, and stipends that keep crews loyal when weather turns bad. Doctrine lives in their files. Holiday Windfall Phase 1 reads like a field card. Screeners mark the path and soak up attention. Boarders carry ladders, hooks, and cutters. Suppressors post RPG, 7 and PKM, hold a lane, and deny the rail. Phase 2 doesn't change the playbook, it scales the count. 100 skiffs. 500 men. More layers, same roles, tighter timing. That's not improvisation. That's a template refined by dry runs, then pushed live when the corridor opens. What's the aim? Not just loot. Not tonight. This looks like a probe. They want to time how fast a distress call clears the storm and hits a duty desk. They want to watch how a Navy ship prioritizes a crowded scope when civilians mix with shooters. They want to feel where the legal lines blur when boarders ride the ladder and passengers stand behind glass. Every answer they get becomes a lever for the next strike. Hybrid enemies mix crime with insurgent logic. Their funding mimics statecraft at arm's length, where deniability buys days and jurisdiction buys silence. You've seen the model in other theaters: front groups that look clean, shell firms that move funds in thin threads, and cutouts that sit between action arms and anyone with a flag. It's crime dressed in policy clothes. It moves slow until it moves all at once. The calendar note that rattles planners is simple and cold: a December 22nd window. That projection marks a surge meant to swamp Coast Guard sectors with multiple distress pings, split quick response boats, and fix helicopters on false trails. On deck, the goal is ugly and efficient: hostages for leverage, digital theft from ship networks, and a media storm that stalls rules of engagement while money clears the next tranche. So here's your mini payoff. The center of gravity isn't a rifle on a rail. It's the financial spine that feeds fuel, parts, and pay. Cut the spine and the swarm loses rhythm. Leave it intact and the next wave arrives with better skiffs, cleaner comms, and crews who know the play by heart. With boarders on the ladder and cash turning the gears, only time remains elastic. The question is simple: how fast does a response thread the storm and break this chain mid-transfer? Weather blinds sensors. Money scales the threat. Shut the funding and the swarm loses rhythm. You saw how storms cut radios and hit skiffs, but the real engine was cash that moved fast, clean, and quiet. That bankroll built skiffs, trained teams, and tested response lines. Cut transfers midstream, freeze shells and fronts, and the next wave never forms. Harden comms and rails, yes, but starve the back end. What would you harden first, comms, perimeter fires, or financial interdiction? Comment your choice below and subscribe if you want the tactical breakdowns that cut through noise. The sea is now contested space. Treat every storm line like a test of doctrine.